morning, students. Today we are going to take up the chapter Industries from class 8 Geography. Now, as in the previous chapters we had studied that these economic activities that we had studied, they are of three categories: primary, secondary and tertiary. Now, as we know that industries is the secondary economic sector. Now, why do we say this? We know that primary economic activities, they are concerned with the extraction of raw material, whereas secondary economic activities, they are concerned with the processing of these raw materials into finished goods. And that is why all the manufacturing industries, they are considered to be the secondary sector of economic activities. The third category we had studied, that was the tertiary sector, that relates to the activities that are supporting the primary and secondary sector. Okay, so now we are going to deal in detail the secondary sector of economic activities, that is manufacturing industries. Now, as we know that these manufacturing industries, they process the raw materials. So they procure the raw materials from the producers, and the industries, they process them into various finished products. Now, the history of these manufacturing industries is very interesting. Basically, there had been 4 generations of industries. Now, this is something new concept. We have known industries since the beginning of these ages. In the first generation of these industries, it was the mechanization that came into being. The mechanical form of machines that came into being. It was run basically on the steam engines. Then the technology advanced, and the second generation came up to be with the electricity and telecommunications. The third generation that came up, that was with the computation and the automation of the machines. The fourth and the future of industries is Industry 4.0, that is going to be connected with Internet of Things. That's going to be almost human-less industries. That's still a future. Some industries, some countries are already progressing with this, but it is still a future for the industrial sector. Now let's come back to the topic that we were studying, the industry. So basically, when we study a thing, we first take up the classification. Now, if we talk about the classification of industries, we can divide the industries on various bases. Now, if you pick up on the basis of size, it may be a small scale or a large scale industry. Then we can divide it on the basis of raw materials used. The raw materials can be procured from the agriculture, so these are the agro-based industries. Some are procured from the minerals, so they become the mineral-based industries. Some are basically taking up chemicals as their raw material, so they become the chemical-based industries. Then there are industries that use forest products, so they are forest-based, and then so on. Then there are certain industries that the classification of industries that are divided on the basis of ownership. The industries that are owned and operated by government, they are known as the public sector. The industries that are owned and operated by private individuals, they are the private sector. And then there are some industries that are commonly shared by the private individuals and the government, so they are known as the joint sector. The fourth category is there are certain industries that are owned and operated by the people who are providing the raw materials. So that is known as the cooperative sector of industries. So we'll take up all these in detail. Let's first understand these classification. That is, we are going to take up 3 in detail in this section. One is on the basis of size, on the basis of source of raw material, and on the basis of ownership. So let's pick up the first one. On the basis of size. On the basis of size, we have 2 major categories, large scale and small scale. Now, how do we define the large scale, how do we differentiate the large scale and small scale industries? There are 3 major points on which we can differentiate. First is the amount of capital that is invested. If the amount of capital invested is less, it is a small scale industry, and if it is more, then it is large scale. Although this amount that is invested that defines it a small scale or large scale has been the subject to change over the years. Initially it was about 1 crore that defined the dividing range between small scale and large scale. At present it's around 5 crore. So the amount of capital investment in industries that defines the industries that have lesser than 5 crores of investment, they are the small scale industries, and that are more than that, between 5 to 10 or more than 10 crores, they are the large scale industries. Then the number of people employed. The small scale industries will definitely have lesser number of people employed. They will have more of unskilled labor, and the large scale industries, because they have heavier technology and heavier machines, they will have skilled labor and they will have a large number of people employed. Thirdly, the volume of production. Now the volume of production means the total amount of output that is obtained from an industry. Small scale industries will have a lesser output, whereas the large scale industries will have a bigger output. Now let's have a look at the small scale industries. Certain small scale industries, the examples are like silk weaving and food processing, and these in small scale industries, they have lesser amount of investment and lesser technology. Simpler machines are used for these processing of industries. Now a subset of these small scale industries is cottage industries. Now in the cottage industries, the people are working from home. They are mostly the handicrafts or certain things like basket weaving, pottery. These people, they have the community labor. The family members are all working together. They are working from home. They are procuring the raw material and then they are selling it in the market. So these are known as the cottage industries. It's a subset of the small scale industries. Now the large scale industries. Again, as we earlier discussed, that large scale industries have a larger investment, more than 10 crores. They use higher technology, and the production examples are the production of automobiles, heavy machinery. They are the examples of higher the large scale industries. The large scale industries are also, they can also be classified further on the basis of the commodity that is produced. Like for example, if it is a heavy machinery heavy machinery or automobiles that are being produced, they are known as the heavy industries. There are some large scale industries that are producing goods that are used on daily basis, so they are known as the fast moving products. So on these categories, there are further more subsets of large scale industries. Now on the basis of ownership, as we discussed, public sector, private sector, joint sector, cooperative sector, and there is one more, that is multinational sector nowadays coming up. Now there are examples of public sector, the industries that are owned and operated by private individuals like Tata. We'll be studying about it in detail in the same chapter, that is Tata Iron Steel Company Limited. That is one of the examples that we are going to study in detail. Another example is Bajaj, that is privately owned and operated. So that is a private sector. Now the public sector industries that are owned and operated, they are owned and operated by the government. For example, BHEL or SAIL, that is Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, or the Steel Authority of India Limited. They are totally owned and operated by the government, and that is why they are known as the public sector. Another example of joint sector, Oil India Limited, OIL. That is a joint example of joint sector where the industry is owned and operated by government as well as some private group of individuals. Cooperative sector industries basically are, there are certain industries like handlooms, food processing, dairy products. Amul is one of the best examples of cooperative sector. That is, it came up with the white revolution that came up in India, and the producers of milk were the stakeholders of the industries. They were the shareholders of the industry, and that is why the cooperative sector industry came up in the same form. Okay, now another classification on the basis of the raw materials used. The first classification, agro-based. There are various examples ranging from cotton textiles. It is procured, the raw material that is procured is cotton, which is again an agricultural crop. There may be food processing industries that are procuring the raw materials from the agricultural field, like woolen industry, silk textiles, rubber industry, coffee, tea. They are all the agro-based industries. Another example, another category, forest-based, which procure their raw material from the forest. For example, paper. Paper industry is a forest-based industry because the soft wood that is required to make the pulp and the paper is procured from the forest. So that becomes the forest-based industry. Now all the industries that are based on minerals, like for example the iron and steel industry that uses raw materials from like iron ore, coal, manganese and so on. So they are all minerals that are mined from the earth. Similarly, the cement industry, that is also based on the different minerals that are procured. So another example, aluminium industry, petrochemical industries, all the industries that are based on the petrochemicals, they are the examples of mineral based industries. Then we have marine based, that uses the sea products as their raw materials, like for example seafood and fish oil. Sudha dairy, that is another pastoral based industry. Now we come up to the factors that affect the location of an industry. That is, they are known as the locational factors. There are various reasons for one industry to be set up in a particular region. There may be different causes for different industries to be set up in a particular region, and that is why they affect the location of industry. So they are known as the locational factors. If we deal with them in detail, there may be some geographical factors, there may be certain economical factors, there may be certain the government subsidies that can be the criteria for setting up a particular industry. The factors that affect the location mainly are, firstly, the availability of raw material. There are certain industries that require heavy and bulky goods as their raw material, so they are basically prone to be located near the source of the raw material, like iron and steel industry. They would use coal and iron in large quantities, so they are mainly coming up in the regions where there are mines of coal and iron. Then there are industries that are located on flat terrain, like textile industry. It requires a large infrastructure, so there has to be a flat terrain to come up for that, to bring up that industry. Availability of fresh water, cheap labor. The industries that require a large amount of labor, they will be located near the regions which have heavy population and cheap labor is available, easily available. Then availability of power, capital, transport, market. Now there are certain reasons, like government announces certain subsidies on, sometimes on power, sometimes on land purchase, and that is an attraction for the people to set up the industries on those regions. So they are these were all the factors that affect the location of industries. Then we have the industrial system. Just as we studied the farm system in the previous chapter, this industrial system again has an input, processing and an output. If we study any of the industries, there have to be the inputs. What are the sources of that industry to be coming up? Maybe the raw materials, all the locational factors for that matter, the raw material, labor, capital investment, availability of water, transport, all these become the inputs of the industrial system. processing, all the steps of processing of that particular industry, they are known as the processing, the second part. And then the third is the output. What is the major output? Like for example, in iron and steel industry, iron rods, iron slabs, or even iron ingots for that matter, they are the outputs of the iron and steel industry. Now in this chapter we are going to take three case studies, that is iron and steel industry, textile industry, and information technology. These are the three industries that we are going to take up in detail. And the first thing we are going to do, the way we are going to take up is a comparative study between one industry in India and one abroad. So let's first take up iron and steel industry. Now, iron and steel industry is basically a mineral based industry. It requires iron ore, it requires coal, it requires manganese, and then the processing requires the smelting of the iron ore and then molding and putting them into different shapes. Now the iron and steel industry is basically the ore based industries are the processing is through the blast furnaces. They are huge furnaces, and the energy resource for this blast furnace is basically coal, and that is why coal is required in large quantities, basically larger than the iron ore quantity. Then through this the iron ore is smelted, impurities are removed, and then it is shaped into iron slabs, and then it is further delivered to other industries that are using the iron slabs as their raw material. So basically iron and steel industry is known as the backbone of an industrial system, because all the other industries are dependent on iron and steel industry. The reason is either everything that we use in our daily life, either it is made up of iron and steel, or it is made up of by the machines that are made up of iron and steel. So iron and steel industry becomes the backbone of all the other industries. Now if we talk about the world distribution of iron and steel industry, the leading countries of this industry: USA, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Ukraine, Russia, and India. And we are taking up the case study of Pittsburgh in USA and Jamshedpur, that is TISCO, in India. Now let's have a look from this tabular chart that is going to give us a clear comparison between the two, Pittsburgh and Jamshedpur. Now let's try and segregate all these two cases under with the parameters of raw materials available, market, transport, or any other advantage that because of which this industry came up in that particular region. Now let's take up Pittsburgh region. Pittsburgh is located in the eastern part of USA, and it is closer to the Appalachian coal fields. Appalachian is one of the ancient most hill range in eastern part of USA, and it is also closer to the Great Lakes region of USA. That is why this region became a advantageous location for iron and steel. Coal was locally available, and iron ore was across the Great Lakes, and that because the Great Lakes served as a cheap water transport, the iron ore was procured from Minnesota via Great Lakes, and it was reached to Pittsburgh through trains after that. And that is why Pittsburgh became one of the hub of the iron and steel industries in USA. Market, if we take up market, it has a large home market, that is there are many industries in that eastern part of USA which are dependent on the iron and steel industry of Pittsburgh. There is excellent transport facilities, cheap water transport through the waterways, and the railway lines are immensely built up. The other advantages are that it is located on a flat terrain. It has abundant water supply because of the two rivers that are available there, River Ohio and Monongahela, and that is why the comfortable climate and the supply of skilled labor also had been added to the advantageous location. Now if we talk about Jamshedpur, the raw material, the Jamshedpur is located in the the state of Jharkhand, and it is located very close to the coal mines of Jharia and Raniganj. Iron ore is obtained from Singhbhum and Mayurbhanj areas, and the other raw materials that are required, they are also locally available. It has a large home market, and Kolkata serves as the major port of import and export. There, it is located very close to the Bengal-Nagpur railway line, which serves as the rail transport. And other advantages: flat terrain, and the water supply is it is located in the Jamshedpur city. It is located on the confluence of two rivers, Swarnarekha and Kharakai. It was earlier known as Sakchi, but when Jamshedji Tata established this industry here, it was later known to be Jamshedpur. Other advantages include the support from the government that this industry has received over the time. So that is why this Jamshedpur became the hub of steel industry in India. Now there are various, on the map of India, if we need to locate the major steel centers, they are like the Jamshedpur, and there are furthermore industries that are like Bokaro, Burnpur, Durgapur, Rourkela. You can see they are almost in the same region, that is the Chota Nagpur plateau, which is rich in iron ore and coal. And there are furthermore others like Bhilai, Visakhapatnam, Vijayanagar, Salem down south, and Bhadravati. They came up, most of them, apart from Jamshedpur, the rest of them are all public sector industries. Another case study, the textile industry. In cotton textile industry, we are taking up the comparative study of Ahmedabad and Osaka. Ahmedabad in India, Gujarat, and Osaka in Japan. Now if we talk about textile industry, if we talk about the industrial system, input is the raw material, that is cotton. It means it has to have the cotton fiber for processing, and the processing would include the various processes like ginning, spinning, weaving, and so on. So these things, it gives rise to a series of processes that are required for the establishment of textile industry. Now if we look at the distribution in the world, the industry is majorly owned by USA, then Japan, India, China, and Russia. The leading producer in the world, surprisingly, is Japan, Osaka. Basically, it has no cotton production, but still it is one of the leading producers. In India, it is Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So let's take up why Osaka became so important, and then let's try and compare it with our Ahmedabad. The raw material in Ahmedabad, it is locally available. Ahmedabad is located in the heart of the cotton growing area of Gujarat. The states of Gujarat and Maharashtra, they have the black lava soil that is ideal for the cotton growing. All the climatic conditions that are required for cotton growing are in this region. Whereas on the other hand, Osaka does not have any cotton production. It imports all the raw material from USA, China, and Egypt. And still it has become one of the leading industries of textile. Water supply and power, in the case of Ahmedabad, it is River Sabarmati, and the hydropower stations that are built up on the Western Ghats, they provide the power. And Osaka, it has River Yodo for the water supply, and the power is generated mainly from the imported coal. There too it is dependent on the imports. Now market and transport, Osaka mainly caters to the international market. It has a good transport and port facilities. And Ahmedabad, it majorly caters to the large domestic market of India itself, as well as it also has access to the international markets through ports in Mumbai and Kandla. It has the efficient network of transport because it has a flat terrain. Climate and terrain, again Osaka has a moist climate which is required for the spinning of the textile, and it has the flat land available. It has a little flat land available which it is using for cotton textile industry. Ahmedabad, it has the ideal condition, climatic condition for cotton spinning and weaving, that is the moist warm climate and the flat land available for putting up the industry. Labor in Osaka, they are initially local labor, later it was replaced by modern machines because it came up as a large industry. In Ahmedabad, majorly skilled local labor is available in the states of Gujarat and Maharashtra. In Osaka, the products mainly the cotton textile industry, and besides this it also is taking up woolen and blended silk. And Ahmedabad is majorly for the cotton textiles. Now why there is so much of a difference when Osaka does not produce cotton? How is it coming up with such a big industry? The answer is human resources. Government of Japan is basically investing on human resources, and after the World War II, it has come up to be one of the economic superpowers of the world because of the investment of the government majorly on the human resources. So in India, these are the major textile centers which mark the coming up of the industry. It started from the western side, that is the cotton growing areas, and later spread in various other regions, other regions of India. The third industry that we are going to cater to is the information technology. It relates to the computers, the computer technology, and we are going to take up two major IT hubs of the world. One, that is California, which is known as the Silicon Valley, and the first IT hub of India, that is Bangalore or Bengaluru, which is also known as the Silicon Plateau of India. Now again, if we compare the two, the reasons for the growth of these two industries in the regions. In California, the reason for growth was that it is located in the region where there are more technological universities and which provide the human resource to the industry. Similarly, Bangalore is also located in the region where there are many software requirements of foreign companies, as well as it is also located in a region which is surrounded by technological universities which supply the human resource. The manpower in California, trained manpower from nearby universities. Similarly, for Bangalore, we have manpower from the universities. In California, both software and hardware companies are coming up. Bangalore was majorly known for its software companies, and there had been a phrase that had developed over time, that was many Indians were taking up jobs at the cost of many people in US, and that phrase came up to be known as being Bangalore. Whenever a person in US lost a job to a man in Bangalore, that it referred to as being Bangalore. Now if we talk about funds, there were a lot of funding for risky ventures available in California. In Bangalore, government of Karnataka was the first to implement the IT policy, and that is how it developed here. In California, the cost of living was quite high, and it developed the region furthermore. And in Bangalore, the cost was feasible, and the climate in both the regions was feasible for bringing up the industries. So this was all about the major industries, and to just sum up, the three things that we came up with was: one, that the industries are the secondary sector; secondly, the locational factors; and thirdly, the case studies of iron and steel, textile and information technology. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Jai Hind.